Hi, my name is Miklos Fordas. I'm a language teacher and I teach people English. I'm also working as an assessor. I started in the year 2000 and I assess students at advanced, intermediate and beginner levels. I've been teaching students how to pass IELTS successfully and how to do well at the exams. In this video I'm going to show you how to do well at the oral interview, at the speaking task of the IELTS test. Now I'd like to give you some tips. Tip number 1 is don't panic. It's better if you're not nervous. Try to act and be as natural as you can. Tip number 2, you can start your sentence again. If you feel that you've broken down and you can't remember a word and you're absolutely sure you can't finish the sentence, you can just start again. Tip number 3, it's better to ask for some help at the interview rather than to break down and stop altogether. Tip number 4, it's okay to repeat yourself from one interview to the next. You know, the assessor is not going to see you in the next interview, so whatever you have practiced and rehearsed, don't be afraid to just use them again and again. Here's a question for you about IELTS. Will asking the interviewer during your interview, during the exam, affect your score at the end? You'll find out the answer at the end of the video. During your IELTS interview, it's very important to think about the whole time you're there. As you start your exam, you're going to start being very nervous, and hopefully you relax a little bit as the exam goes on. And you will see, as you look at this chart for example, that as the interview goes on, there will be some highlights. This is when you're doing really well, or when you've said something that the assessors is going to remember. Also, you're going to have some breakdowns, and this is where you feel like you didn't do well, or this is when, you know, your actual speaking has some difficulties. So managing your highlights and your breakdowns is basically what really determines your final exam result. In the video, we would like to show you how important it is to, on the one hand, avoid and manage your breakdowns and hopefully get over these very quickly and easily, and also how to maximize your highlights, which means you'll be able to get a lot of points that will give you a higher band at the IELTS exam. So, the first important thing for you to do is to try and avoid the breakdowns. This is very important when you can't finish a sentence or you can't remember an important word. This is not something you do as a learner. A lot of native speakers will do this. So for example, people use things like, let me see, it's a kind of rodent when you can't remember the word rat. For highlights, it's important, firstly, you can't really spare the hard work. You need to use strong vocabulary. Make sure you know what you're talking about. Make sure you go in prepared and you know enough words that will again bring you those highlights that you really need for a good band score. It's important that the vocabulary is topic related. Things like health, leisure. Vocabulary for these topics are things you can find on the internet and also in a lot of course books. Comparison, another very important thing. Bring in another example or subject. For example, you talk about where you live. Talk about where somebody else lives and compare. Try to introduce an idea with good openers. Words like honestly, simply put, in a nutshell are very good ways to start you off on the next topic or the next point you're going to make. So for example, you could say, honestly, I don't think we should use cars. Simply put, bicycles are the best thing to use in a town. Lastly, in a nutshell, again, very good way to introduce something. In a nutshell, I started in primary school and finished at university. Restart to shift the topic. You might be in the middle of what you're saying. Let's take this example. Yesterday I was in the cinema. In other words, we saw a film that was about someone stuck in a jungle. Another very good tool at an interview while you're speaking is to use description. For example, you don't know the word for ski pose because you don't know the vocabulary for that, so try to describe it. Say something like, 2 sticks you ski with. Very good way to get around it. Rhetorical questions. These are questions that you don't really want to answer, or where the answer is obvious. You could, for example, say something like, what did I want to say? A very good way of, managing another breakdown. Other typical questions during your speaking will be, do you know what I mean? Do you see what I mean? What did I really want to say? Fillers. These are again very important, whether you are a native speaker or not. Learners also need to learn how to manage their speaking. Fillers are an excellent way. So using like, well, anyway, actually, that's one way of putting it. Can really help you manage and get over some breakdowns. So you remember the question I asked at the beginning of this video. Asking your examiner to repeat the question in the speaking part won't affect your IELTS score. Thank you very much for watching. These were a couple of ideas to start you off. In the next video, you'll be able to see some actual IELTS practice, and I hope these will help you do a better interview in the future. If you want to see more videos, subscribe to our channel or follow our Facebook page. Goodbye.